Dillon Danis, more synonymous with being Conor McGregor's water carrier than for actually fighting, has recently made some pretty wild claims about Logan Paul. The Bellator fighter, who hasn't actually fought for 3 years, revealed screenshots of his conversations with Logan, claiming the YouTuber pulled out of a fight between the two. Today, we are discussing the Danis texts, plus the reason why the fight fell apart. So stay with us.
Hit someone 100% too, like just go all out. So they kind of got me like in a weird mindset where I started going crazy and hitting them, and then
First up, we're discussing a scuffle between Danis and one Nate Diaz. Diaz went to war with Danis' master Conor McGregor twice back in 2016, with each man winning one fight apiece, but the pair have never really seen eye to eye and have regularly gone back and forth on social media. At last weekend's UFC 281 event in New York, which saw 2 new UFC champions crowned, Diaz got into it with the Irishman's affiliates once again, this time going after Dillon Danis. Outside the Madison Square Garden venue, the Stockton Slugger got into a verbal altercation with Danis, with the pair having to be physically separated. Most notably in the middle of the verbal sparring was Adi Attar, head of Paradigm Sports, who did his best to act as peacemaker. However, one bystander decided to get involved by saying something inaudible to Nate, but quickly wishes he hadn't as he got stalked and slapped by the younger Diaz brother. Diaz then threw up his fists towards Danis, who almost certainly will have been delighted there was a huge crowd separating them. Of course, Nate then picked up a cup of liquid, throwing it in the direction of Danis, which clearly missed. After the incident, Dana White was asked about his take on the video, sarcastically claiming that it was a shocker that Nate Diaz was involved in an altercation. White also revealed that every time Diaz and his crew turn up at an event, he expects fireworks, so he wasn't too shocked. What did you guys make of the incident? News of Danis being kicked out of a Dan Hooker after party now. Stay tuned.
Of course, big knockdown for Dan Hooker, kicks out! That's it. The Hangman back in a massive way tonight!
Hooker put an end to his recent poor form on Saturday in the Big Apple, finishing Peru's Claudio Puelles via vicious body kick in the second round. So naturally, the popular Kiwi wanted to celebrate getting back to winning ways with a night on the town. Unfortunately though, as Hooker was trying to enjoy his evening at a New York City night spot, Dillon Danis showed up to crash the party. Hooker was out with his City kickboxing teammates, including former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya and pound-for-pound king Alexander Volkanovski. So there was little room for Danis and his pals who weren't on the guest list. Discussing the incident earlier this week, Hooker explained that he saw Danis at the after-party in a booth next to theirs. Dan then said that Danis attempted to enter the Kiwi contingent's booth before one of their party asked, "Who the F is this guy?" before he was quickly escorted out by said team member. Hooker added that after chucking him out, his friend exclaimed, "This Dillon Danis guy is an effing joke," before all carrying on with their evening. It was a mixed bag of results for the New Zealand team at UFC 281 as they offered 4 fighters for the card. Hooker, of course, was successful, as well as the light heavyweight prospect Carlos Ulberg, but there was disappointment for Brad Riddell, as well as Izzy, who was dethroned by arch nemesis Alex Pereira. Some news from Logan's little brother now. Stay with us. As Jake Paul continues his insistence that he is an actual boxer without actually fighting one, it seems as though he might finally be about to break that particular duck. The YouTuber turned boxer has been rumored to be fighting Tommy Fury twice over the past couple of years, but both times the fight has fallen through. But it appears it could finally be set to get the green light. Paul was in attendance for Tommy's exhibition bout in Dubai last weekend, with the whole affair coming off as pretty embarrassing for both. Fury missed weight and his opponent was replaced at the last minute, before his father John appeared shirtless in the ring to stir things up. Jake could be heard goading Tommy from ringside, but it was all very WWE and very, very cringeworthy. After the bout, Paul put out a tweet claiming that he is ready to settle the score with Tommy, saying, "I agree to fight Tommy in Manchester or London in February. I'll come to his country, no more running. His baby is due, and then you've said it's no issue. Since John is adamant we've agreed, I'm giving you 7 days to present a signed contract by Tommy, or I'm moving on." However, at this point, we're not sure how many boxing enthusiasts are actually interested in Paul and the circus that follows him everywhere.
Tommy Fury weighs in at 179 pounds, 179 for TNT Fury.
Do you guys see this one actually happening? We wouldn't hold our breath, to be honest. Next up, another potential opponent for Jake. One former world cruiserweight champion has recently thrown his hat into the ring to fight Jake Paul. Liverpool's Tony Bellew, who held the WBC Cruiserweight title during his career, says he would be happy to return to the ring to fight Jake if the money was right. However, given the fact that Bellew is an actual boxer, although retired, and bigger than Paul, we can almost guarantee Jake Paul would never sign on for this particular fight. Bellew retired after being knocked out by Alexander Usyk 4 years ago, who you might have heard of. But the fact that he retired without suffering serious injury and the recent trend in exhibition fights means he could be tempted back into the ring. Bomber refused to rule out an exhibition, adding that he would only do it if he was going to give it everything. He then explained that it would need to be a meaningful fight and the money would have to be good to get him back in the gym. Bellew, who beat David Haye twice during his career, also knocked out Paul's trainer BJ Flores, so that could be the motivation Paul needs. Would you like to see Bellew take on Paul? Next up, we're discussing Danis' claims that Logan dodged him. You're more likely to associate the name of Dillon Danis with nothing more than internet trolling nowadays, especially considering the Marcelo Garcia-trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt hasn't been seen in competition for more than 3 years. But that hasn't stopped him claiming that somehow he is a big draw and was in contention to fight another combat sports star, who many real fans have very little interest in seeing fight, Logan Paul. And according to Danis, Paul, who has most recently turned out for the WWE, has pulled out of a fight between the pair as he released a screenshot of a WhatsApp back and forth between the pair. Of course, the screenshot revealed very little and didn't show us much evidence that a fight had actually been signed, apart from Logan initialing the back and forth by saying, "Heard you signed." Danis then replied by asking Paul, "Think I wouldn't?" before goading the older Paul brother, suggesting he should stop his cycle, basically calling him a girl. Paul responded, "My gut tells me you're gonna back out, but I'm excited I get to finally F you up. Don't let the pressure scare ya." Danis, who now claims Paul has pulled out of the fight, captioned the screenshot with the message, "Guess who pulled out? The Paul sisters will never fight a real fighter." Hopefully these two stop their embarrassing exchanges soon enough. So what was behind Logan pulling out then?
Millions have fought to support him, but tonight he enters a ring, a boxing ring.
If Danis is to be believed and Paul has actually pulled out of the fight, then it's probably down to the fact that he suffered a serious injury in his WWE match against Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia earlier this month. Paul, who acquitted himself surprisingly well during the bout, showing some pretty good feats of athleticism, badly injured his knee during the bout, suffering a torn meniscus, torn MCL, and a possible torn ACL. The host of the Impulsive podcast recently described the injury as very bad, adding, "This affects my future with WWE, my boxing future, which I already had to cancel a fight for. Like, it sucks." We're assuming the fight he had to cancel was probably the Danis one, which prompted the former Bellator fighter to release the aforementioned screenshot. Anyone who watches professional sports at any sort of level will know that knee injuries are amongst the most serious, and if the injury is actually as bad as Paul makes out, then he could be facing up to a year on the sidelines. So his hopes of being ready for WrestleMania in April look very, very ambitious at this point. On the other hand, you never can quite separate the fact from the fiction where the Paul brothers are concerned, so it will probably be a case of just watching this space for another update.
When I boxed Dillon Danis and I beat the out of him, and he's still knocked out on the canvas when I'm giving my win speech. Clip this.
As always, thanks for joining us today, and remember to stop by again next time for some more fun reveals. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also sharing it with any boxing heads you might have lurking on those socials. Bye guys!